Yo, 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 what's good, y'all? Welcome to another iteration of the With the Homies review. I told y'all that I wanted to get another review out this week, especially before all the Comic-Con madness ensues. But you probably didn't think I would get it out this fast, did you? Well, I didn't either. This episode, I'm going to be discussing the 2019 version of The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening for the Nintendo Switch. Look, I had high expectations for this one right here. Mostly because it's my personal favorite Zelda game in the series. I still think back on fond memories of the original Game Boy game, curled up on the couch, under the lamplight late at night, or in the backseat of the car on a long road trip, even sneaking some game time in my desk at school. And now, I get to relive them in a new animation style and on the brand new Nintendo Switch. Link, the beloved main character of the Zelda franchise, mysteriously awakens. See what I did there? On a remote island, after his ship crashes ashore during a tremendous storm. After being saved by one of the townsfolk of this remote island, confused, scared, and possibly dehydrated, he is taken to the house of Tarin by his young daughter, Marin. Very creative. Where he quickly learns he is no longer in Hyrule, but on the island of Koholint. I don't think I've ever said that name out loud. Tarin returns his shield to him as he admits he failed to find his trusty sword and advises Link to continue a search and rescue for it on the beach. Taking Tarin's advice, Link returns to the beach where he washed ashore and recovers his sword. Suddenly, a mysterious owl appears and tells him that he must awake the windfish. The what? The sacred guardian of Koholint Island in order to return home. The windfish lies dreaming in a giant egg and can only be awakened by the 8 instruments of the sirens. And this is where your journey begins. As I said previously, unlike most of the other Zelda games, this is the first to be set outside of Hyrule and without any of the series' recurring characters. Yes, finally, no Zelda. If you played this game in the Game Boy, you will find that when it comes to story, it's much of the same, which is not a bad thing. In its roots, it is much different from your average Zelda story. It's not the typical search dungeon, find Zelda, kill Ganon, rinse and repeat. We all know the formula. So to play through this once more actually felt refreshing. Personally, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast, let alone a story of a Game Boy game from 20 years ago. So after all these years, it definitely blessed me with a few aha moments that I had forgotten over the years, especially when it came to some of the dungeon puzzles. It felt like seeing an old friend that you lost contact with, lighting up a joint, and reminiscing on all those good times. Link's Awakening is a top-down, or overhead perspective if you want to be fancy, open-world experience focused on exploration and combat. Link must traverse the land of Koholint Island while fighting monsters, exploring underground dungeons, solving puzzles, and defeating bosses. There are numerous dungeons scattered throughout that each have a different and unique feel that makes them feel very much their own, some even requiring special items just to even explore them. Each dungeon steadily becomes larger and more difficult, and they are home to great boss characters that the player must defeat, taking different forms in each dungeon and getting more difficult to defeat each time. Almost every boss from the original is returned with slight updates. Each has their own special quirks such as charging at you, shooting arrows, throwing bombs, splitting into multiple forms of itself, even spitting fireballs. Seeing all these bosses from my childhood redone in HD definitely sent a tear of joy rolling down my cheek. A defeated boss in a cleared dungeon will earn Link a heart container and one of the 8 instruments necessary to complete the game. On my playthrough, I did notice a few things that differed from the original. Gone are the days of jittery screen transitions. The entire landscape is set on a plane with no loading between areas on the open world. Also, you'll quickly notice that the ever-scrolling text boxes aren't nearly as annoying as they were in the Game Boy. This time around, Nintendo implemented a hero mode, which is really just a hard mode that increases the difficulty of the game. It just makes all the baddies do double damage, and relegating your healing factor to virtually nothing, which I think is a much needed addition to the game, because at times the vanilla version can be just a little too easy. One of my personal favorite changes from the original is that none of the dungeon puzzles reset. There are also now more minigames for you to waste your life away playing, consuming all of your time, attention, dedication, and constantly distracting you from the main story. Who needs to sleep? Shower? Walk your dog? Feed your kids? Dungeon building! If you've never played this gem, and some of your favorite games of the series are the original Legend of Zelda for the NES, or Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo, then this is definitely the game for you. Hell, even if you hate those games and love Ocarina of Time and Breath of the Wild, I think there's still something in this game that you'll enjoy. If you're like me, when you're lost in the heat of a contested battle straight out of your childhood, or just wandering across the island of Koholint admiring the new shiny version of your memories, you'll find yourself humming the tunes you came across through each section of the map. A lot of the tinny, monotone sounds of the Game Boy that I can remember have returned in a glorious fashion. The improved sound effects, like the snort of an enemy as they die, or the clank of an arrow bouncing off your shield, even the details like birds chirping as you walk through an open field, are all a delightful addition to this game. The world is vast with sprawling landscapes from dark, creepy, cobweb-ridden forest, rolling fields of green and yellow, old dusty dungeons, to even calmly sequestered villages and offshoot cottages. Each corner of the island of Koholint feels as though it has its own identity, especially now with these newly introduced colors and textures. Everything feels vibrant and alive. If you've played the Game Boy game, if you played the Game Boy game, expect much of the same aesthetic, just pumped up on steroids. The more I played, I couldn't help but continue to compare this game to the original, as opposed to looking at it as its own artistic piece. So you can probably understand my surprise when playing it at certain points. Even the intro looks beautiful in contrast to the original, but this is kind of what you should expect from a 20-year-old remastered game that's like 10 console generations ahead of its predecessor. Nonetheless, this game looks absolutely breathtaking. I would love to see Earthbound redone in this graphical style. Nintendo, make it happen, please. Some quick negatives, or just some things I noticed that I personally wasn't a fan of. When there are a lot of enemies on the screen, or you're moving between towns and sections of the map, or even just through a huge patch of grass, there's a noticeable frame rate drop where it's almost like it goes from 60 to 30, and then it lingers there for a couple seconds. I'm also not a fan of the edge blurring around the screen. It's like there's a blurred rectangle around the edge of the Switch, and sometimes it can be annoying when moving between areas when there might be enemies below. In all honesty, this is just me nitpicking. There aren't many glaring issues that I've come across in my playthrough. All in all, it is an amazing flash from the past. At the end of the day, that's really what's going to sell most of the copies of this game. Hardcore RPG or adventure game fans will more than likely steer clear of this game in favor of some more complex and intricate features and gameplay elements in other titles. I just hope that some of the fans of the original either bought this game for themselves and are reliving the journey all over again, or are carrying along the legacy and passing down the game to their children, or even their nieces and nephews for them to enjoy. I'm still thrilled that Nintendo would go above and beyond with a project like this. It's just an amazing service to the fans. I truly hope to see more projects like it, and from this team in the future. Earthbound! Mother 3! Damn it! Oh, Mother 3. This is your homie Potter, and this has been another episode of the With the Homies review. And I'm giving The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening for the Nintendo Switch 8.5 angry shop owners out of 10.